Kaya, everybody, and welcome to this week's class. Let us start with an acknowledgement of the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional custodians upon the land of which Curtin University's Perth campus sits, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, acknowledging the significant contribution that they have made to science and engineering. Our unit learning outcomes, well, they haven't changed. You should be pretty familiar with them, keeping in mind that every single thing we do in this unit, besides the dad jokes, tie back into these unit learning outcomes. Our 5011 people, same thing with the dad jokes. Our outline for today is this. These are the things we're going to be going through and having a look at and really dipping our toes into to get a great understanding of where things are at and where we're going. Well, let's get rolling. Variable scope. This is really important. If we have a look at the code we've got here in front of us, what do we see? Pretty straightforward, pretty simple situation where we have one variable and a second variable. We open our program, we close our program, we open main and we close main, and that's it. So our variables num1 and num2 get used only here in main. And you can see that's exactly where they're used. So these variables, these ones are what I will say and what we say are local variables, and they're local to main. So they're local to the main method. That's where they're declared, that's where they exist, and they don't exist anywhere outside of that. And you're going, of course they don't, David, because that's the end of the program. That's right. Not but with this one, but as we go further, you will see how this changes. We have a look now at this bit of code, which is pretty similar to the code that we had before. Num1, num2 declared here beautifully. We use them there and there. That's all looking fine, no different from our previous code. But then we have this call to the method here. And if we look into this method called this is an amazing method, we go, there's no variables declared within that method. There's no variables declared. There's nothing that's passed into it. But we go down here and we see num1 and num2, and they're there. We go, okay, that's interesting, because in the previous section, David, you said they were declared in here within there, so they are local there. If something is local, it's only that, local. It's nowhere else found, but we've attempted to use it there. Let's have a look now at what happens when we do that. So I'm just switching in here to the terminal, and you can see I've got javac scope app 04.java, and now let's compile it and see what happens. What's happened? Well, what we've got is we've got these errors. Symbol variable num1 location class error cannot find symbol. We've got variable num2, two errors. So it's pointed out that it cannot find the symbols. It can't find the variables. And the reason it can't find the variables is what we've got is we've declared the variables up here within this function, within this method, and they exist there. When we go out of that function through this line of code here, you notice the call has nothing with it, no parameters, no arguments. So we run into a bit of a problem. Those things don't exist. Let's move to this spot here. Now, scope app 5, what do we have? Our num1 that are declared here. We use them here and here, but now you'll notice in this is an amazing method, we've now added some arguments. Num1 and num2. So we have passed those into the method call. And keep in mind, when it comes to methods, these are integers. So what happens when it's called, the value in num1 is going to be placed into p num1, and the value in num2 is going to be placed into p num2. And now down here, we can use the variables, but we use these two variables, okay, because those variables, those parameters, are local variables to this function. Let's have a look at this in some code and see what happens. I'm going to just clear my screen a little bit. Javac, okay, it's called Scope App 05. It's compiled beautifully, and now I'm going to run it like that. And you can see beautifully it's done what we expected it to do. So we've taken the variables, all right, and we have passed the values into the function, into the method. Now, if we take a look at this one, all right, what do we have? Well, pretty similar to what we've had previously, num1, num2, and I've got here a num3. Probably going to run into some issues, but let's come back and have a look at this. Okay, let's go clear. And Javac Scope App, it is 6. Oh, system.out.println num3, variable num3. Okay, we've run error, cannot find symbol. Okay, so it's having some trouble finding the symbol, the variable. So let's come back and have a look here and go, I wonder why that is. Well, that's because we've got num3 and we've not declared it anywhere. So we've created this magical variable. Okay, not even magical variable. We've just created this thing that it doesn't know what's happening. Let alone, if you notice, I've used num3 down there. How would it have even got down there? Okay, well, it got down there if you're going, David, I know, because we did declare it there, num3. So it's well and truly declared there, but as we've tried to compile it, we've tried to use it here. My guess, what the code was really, what we were wanting to do, was probably do something with num3, and maybe then we wanted to return it and do something back up there, but we haven't. So you can see this scope can get us into all kinds of really cool messes, all right? And now we have one more, all right? And if we take a look, what have we done here? We've again declared it. And I've got system.out.print num3 is, so we've got it there. Let's have a look. We're looking at Scope App 7. Oh, and we've hit the same problem. Okay, how am I going to fix that? Well, I think the easiest way for me to fix that is let's go vim Scope App 07.java. It's opened it up. I'm now in insert mode, and let me come down, and I can see, I'll come back to the color version so you can see it here. All right, and then we'll change it. Num3, I've declared it here, but not up in here. So to resolve one of my problems, what I can do is declare it. Okay, so let's do this. Int num3 is assigned, and I'm going to say 0. All right. Now let's run that again, not vim, but javac. and it's worked beautifully. So now let's go Java, scope app 07, and we run it. And what you'll notice is num3 is 0 in the bottom here. And you're going, but David, num3 here is 42. What's happened? Well, let's have a look as to what happened. What happened was we declared, I'll put it in red, int num3 has a value of 0, and that exists in here. All right? Num3 with a value of 0. We come into our this is an amazing method, and we declare num3 here, and we say it has a value of 42. And we print out num1, num2, and num3. Or I should say pnum1, pnum2, and num3. Because these are variables that are, if you recall, they are local variables here. So they only exist here. And you're going, but there's another num3, David, that's up here. Yes, that's another num3. Do you know another David? All right, there's not just me, there's another one. So the num3 that printed out 0, that is a different num3. So it's like a different David. David McMeekin takes PDI, David Cooper takes another subject. And that's what's happened here with our variable scoping. The last one that I really want to go through here is globals. And what we've done up here is I've declared a global variable. Static final int num3 is assigned 42. So this variable, where is it declared? Well, it's declared within the scope of the entire class. Okay, so it's declared up here, which means it is available to be used in here, and it is available to be used in here. Now, we tend to keep away from global variables because they can cause some problems, because we start to use the variable names again for some reason and we run into an issue. Now, this one has been declared static final, so it's actually, in one sense, it's a constant. So really, if it's a constant, I will say generally it's okay. It's when it's not a constant, when it's a standard variable that can be changed, that is when it's a no-no, okay? So that's really the only place that we use global variables, is when they are global constants, pi, something like that. We want to use that and we can have that as a constant. But the moment it's dynamically being changed, it's not to be a constant, it's not to be a global, well, it can't be a constant, but it's not to be a global variable, it must be a local variable.